Welcome everybody to this little tutorial that I'm going to have here. This is to explain some of the parts of the engine that I build and a little bit of how to put it together and how I've found to get really good results out of it. So this is a working test model. So we'll take it away for right now because that's not how you guys are going to get it. You guys are going to get it in a bag that has a bunch of parts in it. See what parts we got in here. And there's quite a few. I tried to make it as interactive as I possibly could. So you got your block with your belt system all already put in. This fits perfectly in like the Nicky Camaro. That's the one that it's actually designed to fit perfectly in. So you have your block, you have some little bit of sanding and to make this part here flat, because you need to have your bell housing fit there as tight as you possibly can. So a little sanding on here and a little sanding on there, no problems. Everything works out good that way. This pin is supposed to fit inside that hole, but I found that it doesn't, and I produced them anyways that way. That way you can take and saw the end of this off, and you can move it up and down however you need it to be to fit, or you can drill the center of this hole out just a little bit, and then it'll slide right in there, and everything works just beautifully on that. On this particular engine, the next step that you're going to have is you've got your two heads with integrated valve covers. I did that on this engine, but I have since done it differently on the other engines. So each one of these engines will have a different valve cover on it, essentially. So this one has my emblem and then a 427, and I call this the NWC for Northwind Customs 427. Take and sand your the face of the head, and then you're going to glue it right together. These are resin, so your regular model glue won't work. You'll have to use a CA glue or a super glue. I prefer CA. I think it works out really well for what we're doing here. So take and sand that nice and flat and smooth. Glue her together there, everything's good. The thing that you have to be wary about is the placement of your intake manifold. Your intake manifold is based off of where your heads are at. What I have found that I do instead is I place my intake on first, and then it will give you that 90-degree there that the head will now slide right into. A little bit of sanding, everything comes in to work really, really well. So you've got your two heads. Let's see if I can hold this all together in one without gluing it. So two heads, and your intake goes on here like this, and that's basically the majority of the engine there. Then you have your transmission that goes on the back side here, and everything fits in nice and well. The one thing that you do also have is you have a notch here in the block, and that's for this starter, which is the two cylinders, one small top stacked on top of a big one with a square pin on the back, and this will slide right in that groove there and give you a pretty realistic looking starter. Let's see if I have one of these on, you can kind of see that starter right there in that spot. So after you get your starter in, then you can put your exhaust manifolds on. So the exhaust is one for each side, and basically what you're going to want to do is you can put them both together, and they're mirrored. So one will go one way, one will go the other direction. You can see that this has a longer tang than this one, that is so that you can trim it to however it needs to be to make the elbow. That's what these elbows here are for. You have two big elbows and two little elbows. So your big elbows are going to come off of your this angle here, and they're going to basically go together like that. And then the other end is built into your intercooler, and you have a big end and a little end. So your big ends go on the top, your little ends go on the bottom, and that's how that's all designed. So each one of these now glues onto, this is a different engine, but for the sake of mock-up, it'll work. So this would then glue on like this. Then the same on the other side. This also doesn't have valve covers. This, like I said, is the new design. So you've got your exhausts. Then these two mirrored pieces here, they connect in a V like this with your intake connected on that there. And just a little bit of Dabusier glue and it'll hold together without any issues at all. The blow-off valves look really good on this setup, and I really like the way that they look as it's all put together. So this one here, like I said, is the working test model, and it doesn't have the wastegates, which is this piece here, and it doesn't have the blow-off valves. So you can just imagine how that goes in just like that. Everything goes together, and then this, after you trim these back down and put the other elbows in, would basically attach in like this. And then you'd have your radiator on the engine side, but that's your intercooler. So kind of an interesting setup. Like I said, I've changed a little bit of the design now. So this is my single turbo setup, and you can see right off the bat, off the block, I've changed the belt routing up quite a bit to accommodate a couple of different things that I have going with this one. And I have a separate valve cover so that you can get a little bit better detail on the valve covers themselves. The intakes on all of them will be drilled, would be set up to where you can drill and then put your own distributor in and then wire the engine. This engine has been primed, is all that it's been done. I washed it off really, really good, and that's really important with a lot of this resin stuff, is to wash it really, really good. If it's cast, it could have mold release on it that needs to be washed off. And if it's printed like these are, some of the chemicals that we use to clean the resin can also leave a film on the part. So definitely do a good washing on it, because it is important. So good washing, then glue it together. Like I said, you gotta sand a little bit and file a little bit, and everything kind of sets down. On the back here, you're not gonna see much because it's gonna be pretty well hidden with sitting in a car. So this engine is my single turbo variant, and it's got a different intake on it, and it's got the different belt routing. Then when it comes time to putting the manifolds on, so you have your turbo, your blow-off valve, and your wastegate, then this you would glue on just like that into the exhaust ports coming out on the head. Just a Dabusier glue, and that everything goes together. Then the other side comes on, and it curls on, and it goes and it crawls underneath with the pipe here, and then it intersects, and that's how you get your boost that way. So I had a couple questions on how these engines go together, and all of this variant of engine is going to have this same It's a generic transmission with a scatter-proof shield, with this block with the windage tray, with a starter. They'll have different valve covers, but the heads will be the same, and all the intakes will be the same. I have in plan of a dual quad, a stock engine, a supercharged engine, and if I can figure out how to do it, a centrifugal supercharger engine of this small block Chevy as well. Then I'll go on to the next engine and continue on with the same idea. So hope this kind of gives a little bit on the procedure. If anybody has any other questions or needs a step-to-step diagram put out on how to put any of these together, feel free to hit me up. Either Instagram, Northwind Customs _208 or _208, sorry, or the email at northwindcustoms@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook under Mike North. So thank you guys for your time. Thank you guys for watching, and hopefully that shows a little bit of how I have it set up. Thank you again.